Cool. So let's start. We have the presentation? Yes. Okay. Basically, in business, I mean, there are three types of jobs that we have today. Ones that are traditional stuff, let's say selling detergent like Procter & Gamble. Second, something in between, like is the intersection between strategy and technology, which I'm trying to cover today. And third is something more advanced, Web3, something like this, right? So there is this code that everybody makes and puts on in tech in Silicon Valley. And I do think now is the best time to do that, right? I mean, it's a rain from this point of view, so you have these opportunities to do all these things. But you'll see in my presentation that I have a theory that is called the train de grande vitesse theory. That means the TGV, bullet train theory. That means companies can go only from A to B. They can never go to C. And we have the example of Meta that has spent 40, 50 billion trying to create the metaverse, and they lost the money, no real outcomes, and that's one of the examples that I have, right? So this is the CEO of Box, saying that incumbents cannot do much stuff unless it's sustainable innovation, like AI. In the AI field, big tech is winning, we know that, right? But in other parts, big tech cannot do much of the stuff. So here it's your playground. So there is an inflation about newsletters, and I also have one, right? And it's not only inflation of USD, Euro, and so on. There is also an inflation of also on newsletters, right? I come from I have a background in finance and also in management, and then for 15 years I've been teaching, and now I'm a full-time professor and doing some consulting job. And this presentation that you are going to see today, it's actually a 1 hour presentation stretched in 20 minutes, because at a board meeting where I was paid to speak 1 hour, they said you have only 20 minutes. And it was okay, because I got good money for 20 minutes. Now, why I do the newsletter and why I write these kind of articles that you can see here in Romanian and English is that because I think that in life and in business you need to close the feedback loops as soon as possible, to see that you are doing good what you are doing. There is 6 weeks feedback loop advertised by the guys from Basecamp from 37 Signals. I think it's pretty useful in business not to use to lose the time and the track. This is why I write, because sometimes I receive good feedback, sometimes I don't receive any feedback, and I go from mistake to mistake, but at some point I do receive feedback, right? So this is my newsletter. You can try it, you can see it. Okay, good. Top business priorities, as you can see here, made by Gartner: growth and technology, right? How we do achieve that, and what are the obstacles to do that? Let's see some things. One, what happened in the last 3 years, I would say, led to forced experimentation, forced acceleration, that in the end led to broken habits, right? I didn't say it, Ben Evans said it, but you see everywhere, because we change our habits, including my mother, who is 60-something, is now ordering online from different platforms. Amazing, right? This means new business models. In Romania, monetary policy interest rate 7%, that means it's not a good time to buy an apartment, but it is a good time to start a business, because what you need in most of the cases is usually a laptop and access to some funding from VCs, and now we see more and more, from Gapminder to Sparking Capital, they are here financing projects. Of course, the inflation starts to go down across the world, but it will be, from this point of view, a slow process, one by one, 1 year by another year, but still a long process, short to long, depending. There is this joke, if you remember, first you launch it in the Silicon Valley. You launch it on Android and 6 months, on iOS, and 6 months later on Android. Now is a new joke in town, saying you launch everywhere except the European Union, and 6 months later in the European Union, right? You remember Threads, right? This is the new trend, because Meta had to employ 1,000 people to make sure they don't take fines for that. So overregulation drives growth away. We see that European Union has been surpassed by China in terms of GDP. United States is still leading, and there are some estimates that will never be surpassed by China. That's a good thing for us. right? Because we love democracy. And finally, what we see everywhere is that local news become global news. There was a 1 month ago or 2 months ago a protest for Gaza in Kalarashi, right? They don't have streets, normal streets, sidewalks and so on, not to mention parks, cultural life and so on. But there was a protest for Gaza in Kalarash, right? Because why? People care about this kind of stuff, right? So amazing stuff. Not only Gaza, I just give you an example, right? Of course, we need to care about what's happening in the world, but first let's solve some crucial problems at home. There are 6.83 billion users of smartphones. Yeah, we still have that friend that has two smartphones, right? Not two SIMs, two smartphones, but there are fewer and fewer. This is the photo of 2023, and of course this guy, as a profession, it's an art collector. No, really. I have people at my university, students, that are here also in our audience, saying that, hey, I have on the blockchain a part of Andy Warhol. What do you have? You know, I was exchanging Panini stickers when I was their age. Now they are discussing about Andy Warhol and Picasso's and other stuff. But they are art collectors. This is what they put on their job description, CV, if they have any, right? So there is a new reality, and this generation, that it's not your generation, most of you are probably millennials here in the class, sorry. This is a background, academic background, here in the room. But those who are the Gen Zs, those born between 95 and 2010, they speak differently. And how they speak in memes, right? This is an example of, right, with Mordor, and this is another one with Zile Dejului. And I observed that when I was a manager at EY, Ernst & Young, in the strategy department, that the Gen Z, the Zoomers we call them, they're not actually talking with words, they're sending only pictures. Pictures being memes. So then you have to accommodate and you need to learn this language, right? Algorithms are better than first mover advantage. We like content from everyone, not from 1, 2, or 3 people. That's why TikTok is where it is, and also the medium matters. It's text, image, and video. That's why video rules, right? But also, algorithms are the new nuclear weapons. We see what happened in Gaza when somebody, hint, China, changed the algorithm a little bit, put a little bit some movies about, that were against Israel, to say so, and suddenly, hashtags stand with Palestine, 3.4 billion compared to 300 million stand with Israel. This is the actual power. This is the actual fight to ban the TikTok in the United States, and not only in the United States, everywhere, right? So if you ask me, I am pro-banning this, let's say, weapon of mass destruction. Right? Next, there are 5 stages of social media, and you are social experts, and we know that before, what was the first stage of social media? It was People magazine, but for my generation it was Bravo magazine, right? It was also Cosmopolitan, but Bravo was the first. From there were the people that mattered to us, right? Then we got the newsfeed, which killed the traditional social media, these guys, right? But we discovered very fast that most of our uncles, aunts, cousins are very boring. Friends, 99% of them. So we found somebody who killed the newsfeed. Who killed the newsfeed? Exactly, Kim Kardashian, and more exactly, the professionals, right? We say, oh, wow, that's cool. That's very cool. I want to be like her. Not like Kim, but I don't know, Shelly, right? And somebody killed her because she went complaining in the Wall Street Journal 1 year and something ago, saying that it was an article, make Instagram again. Who killed her? The algorithms, right? TikTok. Because she discovered that she cannot compete with creatives from all over the world. You can live in a village in Peru making $2 per day. And with your content with cats, I don't know, maybe cats, let's say, right? You can drive more revenue and more traffic than Kim Kardashian, right? So she's not anymore fighting with the content from your boring uncles from countryside, that are posting shitty things on social media, right? Now she's actually fighting with content from retail creators. And what is the fifth stage of the social media? Yeah, basically it was AI generated content, stable diffusion, mid journey, and DALI, right? This is the next wave. Cool. So if we now consider social media, what will happen in the next, in this year, there will be three trends. One is the immersive one. We started with text, we went to images, after that came video, if you remember, right? And then 3D, and then VR, augmented reality, how you want to name it, this is it. The second trend is much more AI. We started with a newsfeed that was based on time. After that was the ranking. What was after the ranking? It was the recommendation one. Now is the algorithm in charge. And comes the fourth stage, which is, you don't know social media, huh? The generate part. And the third trend is a transition from user-directed to computer-controlled. We start with the click. What was after the click? Tap. No, scroll, sorry. I got in the trap. Now is tap. What else after tap? Swipe. And after swipe? The dopamine machine. Autoplay. You stay on TikTok, you see some video after video after video, you took so much dopamine, 2 hours later you are what I'm doing here, right? We know this. So here it's a code that should make you worry, because you are living in Europe and you see this, right? So that's worrying for me, for our future, that's worrying. Next. Why? Because we see now China has exporting more cars than others. China, right? And they can do that because there is a one in a century platform shift for cars, where the competitive advantage moves not only to a car that has 10 to 10 times less spare parts, but you need also a new skill set, which is software. Now, most of the companies in business, if you know, Geoffrey Moore presented this, in Crossing the Chasm, this is the name of the book, said that they die here. So basically what happens is, when you launch a product, what brings you one category, let's say the innovators, is not bringing you the next category. You need to come up with something new, something different to attract them. If you remember the real first iPhone, it didn't have an app store. Can you imagine buying an iPhone today without an app store? It didn't have video filming. It had a camera. I was at the launch in America in 2007, but you could not film. And there were many other things that they were not there. The internet was 2G. If you remember 2G, I mean, you cannot actually use it. It's like waiting, it's like dial-up if you remember it. So what people don't realize is that what brings you one category is not going to bring you the next category, sorry. So you need every time to iterate. And second, they don't realize that there is an unwillingness to pay for the consumers, which starts to decrease from this point. So now innovators, the 2.5% which are here in the room, they pay for everything. They buy your product and so on and so forth, no matter what you launch. But once it reaches the early majority, goodbye. You need to come with more advantages than disadvantages and so on. And that's why not so many people realize the pivoting part and the willingness to pay. Now, be aware of the super users. Do you know ASOS, which is a company, ultra fast fashion or fast fashion in UK? They made a loss of 100 million pounds due to returns, free returns from 6% of the users. Be aware of these super users because they super abuse you, right? Okay, and the last part of my presentation is relating the innovation stages. Okay, you know that innovation in tech works in S curves. Usually in the first phase of an S, you have, sorry, this is a little bit, you have the innovation part, the improvement, and the third phase is the optimization. And if we look now, we see every 10 to 15 years a new platform. We started with mainframes. What was after the mainframes? The PC. What is after the PC? No, it was the internet that made possible the smartphone, and I will put it in the same package with the cloud, right? And now the discussion is what is after the smartphone and the cloud. Somebody said it will be the metaverse, which is not. We know that now. No matter what Apple tries to do right now, it's not. Somebody said spatial computing. Probably not. Some of you said Web3, debating, right? But probably it will be generative AI. And how we know that? It is how much economic impact it can bring. That's the only true measure that matters. How much money, how big it's your impact. And we now know from generative AI that the impact is fivefold. Just to name them briefly, I didn't put them here. Companionship, that means loneliness. Look in all developed markets, there are people living alone and they are just expecting to have a companion. Productivity, I have 27 GPTs. How many GPTs do you have? Creativity, I used to create my images, my everything. I use that in my own, with my subscriptions that I have. And that was third. Military is fourth, and fifth is robotics. What Elon Musk is trying to do with the humanoid Optimus, or how it's called, right? This will come after the blue-collar workers. So this is actually how I see it. And now let's break the S-curve to see where are we right now and what companies do we have. So there are three stages, right? In this stage, everybody laughs at you. Probably they think you have a toy. Here is where we have the Rabbit Air 1. If you know the Rabbit Air 1, that it's going to be launched in 1 month or something. This is it. Everybody laughs at you, right? The second, it's, oh wow, everybody wants to work for you right now. Everybody wants to. It was a UiPath several years ago, if you remember. And of course, the last one is a cash cow, but it's boring. Nobody talks about this anymore because it's boring, right? Let's identify a little bit some products or companies. Vision Pro, right? First, here, everybody's laughing. We'll see if it will be a success or not. Second, Ozempic. If you don't have Novo Nordisk shares, probably you don't know business, right? You don't understand how things are working against losing weight. Now, we go in the, oh wow, what do you have here? What do you think? ChatGPT, somebody said. Thank you. What else? Shein. All our students are buying from Shein. There is a new business model, totally different from Zara and so on. We can discuss in the break if you want. And which is the ultimate product that is cash rich but extremely boring? Of course, the iPhone. Everybody buys, nobody says anything that they bought the last iPhone because it's just normal stuff. Right? That's it. I mean, boring. But do we want, can I come with an Android at the school? No, because everybody will exclude me socially. Nobody has, no, that's a reality. If you have a, no, where are you living? I'm living among the Gen Z. I see between 1 and 2,000 students per week. If you have an Android phone, you are excluded socially. Really, you are not cool. If you are not cool, you are excluded. Nobody's saying, hey, you have an Android, go away. You will feel it. So the metaverse for thesis it's actually a vision for a universal screen. That's why we see Meta trying so hard. But everything what is in this area is pop culture, and pop culture is very hard to break. It's very, very hard to break. This is me trying to do with a Meta Quest 2. It's okay up to a point. So that's why what Apple has envisioned, it's a future, this is what Meta has envisioned. What I want to say also more here is that except the smartphone, the iPhone, everything else started from the enterprise as a success in a market platform shift. iPhone was the first one that was a direct to consumer. So probably it will have some chances. This is my theory that I mentioned during my, that companies cannot go from A to B. And the best examples that comes to my mind is not Meta, it's actually Google. They invented the transformer that stays at the base of the generative AI. It was a paper written by their engineers called Attention is all you need. It was in 2017, you can go online, you can search it. They realized that they will kill their cash cow, which is the traditional search, the 10 blue links. So they park it. If you see, there is an account called Tech Emails on Instagram, Threads, not Instagram, Threads and Twitter. You will see there the discussion from the engineers, how dangerous it is, and they kill it. And of course, somebody with a startup came, OpenAI, right? And they created. This is what happened with Meta. How Apple imagine their device, we'll see. They need 3 more iterations, 3, 4 to bring the real Pro, and 1 more to bring the Air version. Of course, many case studies. And this is a quote that Ben Evans mentioned, that AI gives you infinite interest. I feel more productive since I have AI. I have 27 GPTs. I plan to have 50 by the end of the month. I use for newsletter, for mathematics, for econometrics, for different kind of stuff that I do, and I want to be challenged to give me the code, arrange me this, recommend me that, and so on and so forth. Which of course is going to diminish the all search, the traditional search. By how much? Gartner says by 20%. We'll see, I think it will be more. And I do that because the GPT-4 has an IQ of 150. It is believed that Einstein had an IQ of 160. So what was coming now with GPT-5 this year, probably it will be more than that, right? These are part of my GPTs. Okay, peak interest, I already said about generative AI, that is now peak interest. And of course, GPUs, that starts, you know the difference between CPU and GPU? Yeah, you know, you are very technical, but probably most of them don't know. On a GPU, technically you can take one task and split it in many parts, small parts, and do it in the same time. With a CPU, you do it one time. Sorry. So, who are the winners in the AI era? The old school, just with other names, right? Because it is not disruptive innovation, it is sustaining innovation. You can see the difference on the book called Innovators Dilemma by Clayton Christensen. Okay, and finally, large companies try to do the new thing, a feature. And you can see now that Copilot has, we have Copilot from Microsoft or Gemini and so on, right? But in the meantime, the startups want to be real companies and they discuss about devices, chips, and so on and so forth. So let's summarize it. In 2005, we are actually going to Orange Film Night, if you remember. It's still today. 2015, 10 years later, we had Netflix. And probably next year, we can ask an LLM to do a narco season in the Balkans with Brad Pitt and Taylor Swift in the leading roles. We are very close, right? We have now AI Sora from OpenAI. We'll see what things we'll have next, right? So being more productive, of course, like me, means using less resources, and we see already some headlines in this direction, right? There is no surprise here. So where I see the innovation happening in the AI part, but also in the advanced tech. Here it's Anduril, it's a military defense company in the States. Imagine when you have drones that coordinate and speak to each other through generative AI and coordinating before attacking, I don't know, the Russians. That would be nice. And it's coming. We know that from the field. In probably 1 year, they will be fighting only robots over there, and then in 2 years, it will be with AI. So the Vision Pro is an iPad on your face. And what they want to do is, they are filming right now different venues with special computing cameras, so that you can be just behind Messi and see how he's executing the penalty in the final, or he can be in the front row of a concert with Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is now bigger than the economy. We need to mention her. It should be case studies about her. And we should listen to her music to understand what's really happening. Because she's a bigger than economy. And finally, each window will get an AI assistant. Just look at this one. I got on LinkedIn, write with AI. I went on Notion, AI. I went on Slack, AI. Everybody's with AI, right? If you don't put AI or don't mention AI in your calls with investors, or you don't pitch to raise some money, probably you don't have results, the expected results, right? So, Europe, where is Europe? From my point of view, Europe has a future that should focus on two things. One, it is artisanship. That means Louis Vuitton bags and other stuff. We'll never buy this kind of luxury bags from China. And second, advanced tech. Novo Nordisk, ASML, the company that makes the chips, that makes the machines that makes the chips, right? You know ASML? Yeah, it's in Netherlands and so on. These kind of companies, this is the future of Europe. Probably you will get a touch with AI and so on. Otherwise, we are champions at overregulation. Now, this is how China went from doing cheap stuff, which is not doing anymore, because the cheap stuff like clothing, apparel, this t-shirt is not made anymore in China, it's made in Bangladesh, right? They started with just manufacturing, they moved to sell, and now also retail. And we see that with cars, phones, it's a new flood of products that will be on the market, from batteries, drones, smartphones, electric cars, TVs, laptops, anything that they can do, they will manufacture and they will flood the market. And finally, e-commerce is a search bar. And to conclude, attention is all you need. Social media is not shoppable, but drives all the attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
More or less. More or less. Do we have time for one question? Somebody raised a hand at some point. Anyway.
Did you make
Yes.
any analysis on Taylor Swift impact?
I should do, and they can be done with sentiment analysis, especially on Twitter, where it's a platform that Isabel is just in your back, right? I can do that. She already did some of that for her master project. So yeah. No, we know that when Taylor Swift is reviving the economy where it goes. Except Australia. She has some problems in Australia. It didn't raise the inflation. But anywhere, it's a huge success story. And kids like her. Kids, Gen Z.
Even those with Android?
Less. Thank you very much.